All right, so imagery. Here's the big picture. Here's the idea. Writers use imagery. They create pictures in your head to create feelings in your mind. We don't just say the boy walked into the classroom. That doesn't create an image in our head. But if the boy opened the yellow door and slammed it shut, put his fingers through his dark black hair, and stared at everyone with his piercing, sharp black eyes, and then slowly sat down in the chair, we have a better picture in our head than the boy who walks in and sits down. And so we use images to create that. We use the sensory details. Sensory details appeal to the 5 senses. What are the 5 senses?
Sight.
Say again? Sight, correct. Taste, correct. Smell, correct. Sound, correct.
Touch.
And touch, correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 senses, right? You use your ears, your nose, your eyes, your skin, and your tongue. As you read the poem we're going to read today, pay attention to the sensory details. See which ones are doing what. Now, an image is a picture or sensations a reader forms in his mind. An image is a picture. That's easy to understand. The idea of sensations is a little bit different. For taste, you still use sensory language, but you don't create a picture, right? If I say the kimchi was very salty, that doesn't create a picture, maybe of kimchi, but the salty part, it doesn't create a picture of salty, right? But it does create that feeling. Have you ever had in the cafeteria sometimes kimchi that's too salty? And it's really salty on your tongue. That is the idea of a sensation. Smell and sound and touch are also the same thing. Okay, so they are sensations. Sight is a picture. And then imagery is a collection of sensations or images. Okay? So image, it's like one thing, just one thing. Imagery, many things together. All of these things can lead us to feel things, or they can be used to create suspense. Bless you. They can be used to create suspense. Now, suspense is like the excitement or scared feeling you get when you wait to find out how something is solved or resolved. Do you remember back in The Most Dangerous Game when Rainsford knocks on the door and the door opens and the big Ivan is there, right? And Rainsford says, "Hi, I'm Sanger Rainsford." Then Ivan pulls up the gun and points it at Rainsford, right? And Rainsford says, "I'm just a nice guy, don't shoot me." And Rainsford watches as the hammer of the gun goes back, right? We don't know what will happen. We get a feeling of suspense, right? That is suspense, when we don't know what will happen next, but something exciting is coming, right? That is suspense. Okay, pretty easy stuff, right? Let's take a look at this poem. All right, so Incident in a Rose Garden. I will read it and we'll go over it just a little bit at a time. Don't worry about the format of the poem so much right now. Don't worry about rhyme or rhythm or anything about things that make poems different. Today, let's just work on understanding the poem, okay? All right, so first, It says, the gardener came running. Okay, we have a character already. Who? The gardener. Easy peasy, right? An old man out of breath. Is that a sentence? No, right? There's a comma here. So an old man out of breath. But it doesn't matter. It's a poem. Okay? So the gardener is an old man. He's out of breath. That means because he's been running, right? Fear had given him legs. Okay, does that mean he had no legs before? No, that means fear made him run fast, right? Fear made him run fast. Okay, I suggest you take notes on the paper here as we go so that you can understand and remember. Now it's in italics. The letters have turned sideways a little bit, right? It says, Sir, I encountered death just now among the roses. Okay, sir, what does that mean? Man. So what does that mean the gardener is doing? He's talking to someone, right? He's talking to someone. So the italics, the lines being curved, means conversation. Okay, so he's talking to someone. The italics means conversation. So he says, Sir, I just encountered death. I just met death. Just now among the roses. Okay, so there are roses somewhere. Thin as a scythe, he stood there. What is a scythe? Do you know? Have you guys ever seen a picture of like death as a skeleton? And he wears a big black coat, and he has the big stick in his hand, right? And the big knife that comes off. That is a scythe. That is a scythe. Okay? So thin as a scythe, he stood there. I knew him by his pictures, right? We all have pictures of death, right? With the skeleton and the hood and maybe the glowing eyes, or sometimes, like a devil, right? Like red skin with little horns sticking out of his head, like a devil. So some sort of death picture. He had his black coat on. Okay, so in this case, he has a black coat. Black gloves, a broad black hat. Okay, that's all pretty simple, right? He has a black coat on, right? Black gloves, and a wide black hat. Then the old man says, I think he would have spoken. I think he wanted to talk to me. Seeing his mouth stood open, because I saw his mouth was open. Big it was, with white teeth. The death's mouth was big, with white teeth. As soon as he beckoned, I ran. As soon as death said, hey, come on over here, and waved his hand to come over, the gardener ran. Ran away, right? He didn't run to death, right? Does anybody want to run to death? No, you don't want to die. No one wants to die, right? I ran until I found you, okay? The person he's talking to. What did he call the person he's talking to?
Sir.
Sir, correct, excellent. Okay. Sir, I am quitting my job. The gardener sees death and decides he wants to quit. Why do you think he would want to quit after seeing death? To spend his last time? Yeah, the way he wants? Yeah, possibly. So he says, I'm quitting my job. I want to see my sons, my children, one more time before I die. Once more before I die. I want to see California. Has anyone here been to California? Yeah, a couple of you guys? Cool. So me too. It's beautiful. He should go there before he dies. He would be smart. Okay. And then it goes back from italics to normal text. It says, we shook hands. So now we. That means he and I. So the gardener and me. So now we know who's talking. One of the characters in the poem is talking. Right? So say it says, we shook hands. He was off. He ran away. And there stood death in the garden. So then the man, this master, the gardener person, sees death in the garden. And see, death is with capital D, right? Capital D. And he's dressed like a Spanish waiter. Have anyone here ever been to a Mexican restaurant? You have been? Do they wear like a little black coat with gold? Maybe, yeah. So it's a very traditional Mexican or Spanish outfit, okay? He had the air of someone who, because he likes arriving early at all appointments, or arriving at all appointments early, learns to think himself patient. Okay, this is the first hard part. Okay, he had the air, he had the look. He looked like a person who is patient because he always arrives early. He looks patient because he always arrives early. When you arrive early, you sit and you wait. So you look patient. That makes sense. Now, the next part. I watched him pinch off one bloom, or pinch one bloom off. Pinch off one bloom of what? Pinch off. What is a bloom?
Flower.
Yeah, the top of the flower, right? The flower, the pretty part of a flower, right? And what flower is he pinching off? Rose, right? Roses. So he's taking his two fingers and he's picking up a rose and he's pinching and taking off the head of the rose. He pinches off the head, doesn't take the whole thing, just pinches the head off. And he holds it to his nose. Does the skeleton have a nose? He's got a nose hole, right? He has a nose hole, right? And he holds it to his nose. He's a connoisseur of roses. A connoisseur means a professional, someone who really understands, okay? And then one bloom and then another. So he picks up one rose, he smells it, he drops it. He pinches another, smells it, drops it. Pinches another, smells it, and drops it. All the time walking maybe closer to the man. Pinching, dropping, pinching, dropping, pinching, dropping. He's destroying all of the man's roses. They strewed the earth around him. All the roses are on the ground around death. And then the man says, "Sir," this time "sir" is death. But he's being very polite, right? "Sir, you must be that stranger who threatened my gardener. This is my property, sir. I welcome only friends here." Okay? So he says, you came onto my property, you came onto my land, and you threatened my gardener, made him run away. But I don't want people on my land who are not my friends. Death grinned. Okay, death grinned. Can a skeleton smile? Maybe, I guess, kind of. It's like it's only bones. There's no muscle. There's no skin, right? But it's like, so when death grins, it must be very terrible looking, right? And his eyes lit up with the pale glow of those lanterns that workmen carry sometimes to light their way through the dusk. Okay, you guys know what do you know what a flashlight is? Okay. Flashlight is you turn it on, right, and you shine it, right? A lantern is a little box that you hold up and there's light inside. That is a lantern. So he says that death has eyes like two lanterns. Two lanterns. And then he says, now with great care he slid the glove from his right hand and held out in greeting a little cage of bone. So death takes off his glove and shows his skeleton fingers. And then he holds it out to shake, right? Americans, they shake hands, right? They don't bow. They shake hands. So death is holding out his hand to shake hands with the master. And then death says, "Sir, I knew your father." Again, "sir, everyone is very polite. Everyone is very polite. So, sir, I knew your father. And we were friends at the end. Of course, Death knows his father, right? Death knows everyone. And we were friends at the end. So, Death and his father were friends at the very end of his life. Right? As for your gardener, but about your gardener, I did not threaten him. I did not threaten him. Old men mistake my gestures. Remember, the old gardener, he's old, right? And so he made a mistake. He didn't understand death. Death says, I only meant to ask him to show me his master. He only wanted to ask to see the master of the garden. And then the last line is, I take it, that's you? I take it you or him? Okay. So death is actually there for the master, not for the gardener. Okay. So what I would like you guys to do is this. You have the poem all in front of you. On the boxes, on the right-hand side of the page, I ask you to give me a small summary of what is happening in those lines. Okay? Retell the poem using your own words. Your own words. Okay? That is our goal. Then, on the other side, I want you to draw a picture of death. Okay? On the other side is a spot on the top box. Put in the words from the poem that talk about death, and then draw a picture of him here. Okay? So those are the two things I would like you guys to do today. Okay? And yeah, that leaves about 20 minutes. You can start with either side. I don't mind. Do either side, whichever seems better to you guys. All right, are there any questions? Awesome.